Hey, what's up, people? Pizzal here, and today I want to talk to you guys about the new Umbrella Entertainment Ultimate Edition release for George Romero's Day of the Dead. Now, this is mostly going to be a review of this release, A, because there is so much to dig into on this release, and B, because I want to do in the future lengthy standalone videos in which I discuss both Dawn of the Dead and Day of the Dead. But I do want to talk about Day of the Dead here briefly before I dive into this release. And of Romero's big three Dead movies, which I know the Dead movies went on after Day of the Dead, but for me, Night, Dawn, and Day, those are still the big three when it comes to Romero's Dead movies. And of those three, Day of the Dead is my favorite. Now, I think Dawn of the Dead is the best of the three, but Day of the Dead is my favorite. But that's not always been the case. I can remember first watching Day of the Dead many, many years ago on VHS. And after it was over, I remember thinking, like, I've seen it once. I'll never see it again. I've completed the Dead trilogy, which at the time it was only a trilogy. And of the three Dead movies, this is my least favorite. I'll never have to watch this movie again. And I went on with my life. However, Day of the Dead resonated with me in a way that Night and Dawn did not. I kept thinking about Day of the Dead. There was something about the movie that made me revisit it. And when I revisited it, all of the elements that had kind of turned me off the first time around, I'm talking about how dour and just oppressively bleak this movie is, really became things that I love about this movie. And now I absolutely love Day of the Dead. I love it for its bleakness. I love it for its amazing practical effects and zombie makeups. Absolutely. Even watching it today, even watching it just the other day on this release, the big zombie attack toward the end of the film, in which the one guy gets his head torn off, and as his head's being ripped off of his body, you can hear his vocal cords stretch and his screams go very high pitch as his vocal cords stretch before they are ripped and torn and his head is separated from the rest of him. The guy who gets his eyeball torn out, the death of Rhodes being torn apart. Just beautiful. Beautiful practical makeup and gore effects that trump anything that you see today in movies, on television. Just the best. This was Tom Savini at the apex of his power as a special makeup effects artist. And in this film, he truly deserves that title of artist. The makeup effects, the gore effects in Day of the Dead are second to none, in my opinion. I dig the performances. The performances in the film are over the top. There's so much dialogue in this film that is just screamed at the top of people's lungs. But I get that. And it plays into the, it plays into the movie and into the fact that, these people have survived underground for so long. These people are probably the last trace of mankind on the planet, and they're realizing that, and that their future is, they have no future, and whatever is left of their present is going to be stuck down in this cave with these people who they all probably hate each other secretly. If they don't outwardly hate each other, I would be screaming and yelling and being really over the top too. So I love the performances in this film, particularly Joe Pilato as Captain Rhodes. Just a tour de force performance. Over the top, yes, but over the top in a way that fit the movie and I think fit the character. And of course, I love the character of Bub. I mean, how can you not love Bub in this movie. The scene in which Bub finds Dr. Frankenstein dead, and he realizes that he's dead, and just the grief that you see in this zombie's face and eyes. There's still something about that today that very much just, hits me in the feels. Howard Sherman's performance as Bub in this movie should be in the Horror Hall of Fame as one of, Romero likened it to a Karloff performance, and I would absolutely agree with that. Phenomenal performance. I love the music in the film. The music is also something that was very, it's down, but it's at the same time, it reflects the dour, bleak mood of the movie. But at the same time, it's got this kind of, it's very like Bahamas. It's there's like steel drums in there, and it's kind of bouncy at times, and it's just very odd but very effective. And it's a great score, I think. I just love Day of the Dead all around. It's a movie that every time I pull it off the shelf and I watch it today, I notice something new in it that I like. Or I'll appreciate a performance, or, just some little thing that I've seen countless times before, but, I don't know. I love this movie. I've seen it countless times. It's a great movie to rewatch because there is a lot going on in this film, I do believe. And again, it was not my favorite the first time out, but it grew over time to become my favorite of the Dead series. And if anybody out there, you saw Day of the Dead, you didn't like it because of how bleak it is, or for whatever purpose, give it a second go. Give it a second go. And take it in again and see how the film resonates, see how the film works on you, a second time around. If you've not seen Day of the Dead, by all means, I cannot recommend it enough. It is a great zombie movie. It's got lots of great action in it as well. It's a horror must. If you're a horror fan, if you're a zombie movie fan, by all means, you should watch Day of the Dead. Now, this release from Umbrella Entertainment is a really interesting release. They call it the Ultimate Release, and that is for good. That's a pretty good title to stamp on to this release, because this release, it's 2 discs, pretty much every extra that's been on a DVD or a Blu-ray release of this film, from Arrow, from Anchor Bay, from Scream Factory, is ported over onto this disc. So you've got a lot of extras on this disc to sink your teeth into. As far as the presentation is concerned, I really dig that they went with this artwork. You've got the sort of poster art design. In the background, you've got Night of the Living Dead. In the middle, you've got Dawn, and right up front, you've got Day of the Dead. The sleeve is reversible, and you've got some very nice new artwork featuring Dr. Tongue there on the opposite side of the sleeve, which I think is really cool. Again, 2 discs. One disc is a Blu-ray, the other disc is a DVD, but they both have different extras on each disc. As far as the picture quality and sound quality are concerned, as far as the sound quality, I thought the sound quality was pretty good. I'd give it a 4 out of 5. As far as the picture quality is concerned, I'm not sure if this is the same transfer Scream Factory used. To be honest, when I saw the Scream Factory release, I seem to recall it looking a little bit better than this release. I did not put 2 televisions side by side and compare frame by frame the 2 releases. But as far as the picture quality is concerned, I thought the picture quality was fine. I would give it a 3.5 out of 5. But really where this release shines is the extras. Again, extras from Arrow releases, from Anchor Bay releases, from the new Scream Factory release are all ported over on to the Ultimate Edition release of Day of the Dead. And they include On disc 1, we get World's End, The Legacy of Day of the Dead. It's 1 hour, 25 minutes, and 26 seconds in length. It includes interviews with George Romero, Pasquale Buba, Michael Gornick, John Harrison, Tom Savini, Laurie Cardille, Joseph Pilato, John Amplis, Gary Clark, Terry Alexander, Anthony DeLeo, Sherman Howard, Dean Gates, Everett Burrell, John Vulich, and more. They discuss everything you could possibly want to know about the making of Day of the Dead, from shooting down in the mines, the makeup and gore effects, how Romero had to scale down his original vision for the film, Bub, the film's lackluster release, the poor returns at the box office, and the critical response to the film upon its initial release, its revival on home video, and everyone's thoughts on the film today, including Romero, who claimed that Day of the Dead was his favorite Dead film. Feature-length documentary all about the making of Day of the Dead. It was on the Scream Factory release of Day of the Dead. But yeah, just comprehensive, in-depth, informative, entertaining making of for Day of the Dead. Next up, we have Behind the Scenes on Set. It's 2 hours, 35 minutes, and 9 seconds in length. You get to see behind-the-scenes footage of the casting of the film, catering, the zombie extras, makeup effects, the animatronic effects, rehearsals, staging sequences and effects, and much more. 2.5 hours, over 2.5 hours of behind-the-scenes footage from the making of Day of the Dead. Next up, we get Behind the Scenes Tom Savini. It's 30 minutes and 42 seconds of behind-the-scenes footage shot by Tom Savini of various makeup and gore effects in the film and how they were produced and filmed. Next up, we get an interview with George Romero at the 2008 Melbourne International Film Festival. It's 49 minutes and 26 seconds in length. Mr. Romero discusses Diary of the Dead, which was the film that he had just completed at the time, and his desire to scale back the scope of Diary after Land of the Dead. Romero discusses how the news media inspired his work and how the news media has changed over the years. He discusses his desire to shoot a 3D movie. He talks about Night Riders and why that film is so near and dear to him. Romero is asked about the Dawn of the Dead remake, and he says that after the first 15 minutes of that film, it's more like a video game than a movie, and he adds, in my opinion, zombies don't run. He answers questions about Land of the Dead, Martin, and how the politics of the time inspired his work. Very nice interview and Q&A with Mr. Romero. We get theatrical trailers and TV spots. We get the Gateway Commerce Center promo video, which is 8 minutes and 12 seconds. It's a promo video all about the mine that they shot Day of the Dead in, and it's really fascinating to see what all is, to just think of how huge this place is based on what all is down there. You're talking about boats, you're talking about film prints, you're talking about all sorts of storage. Many different companies use this mine as storage. Many locals use this mine as storage. It's really interesting. We also get 2 audio commentaries. We get an audio commentary with George Romero, Tom Savini, Cletus Anderson, and Laurie Cardille, and an audio commentary with Greg Nicotero, Howard Berger, Everett Burrell, and Mike Deek. I listened to about 45 minutes of the audio commentary with Mr. Romero, Mr. Savini, Mr. Anderson, and Ms. Cardille, which I've listened to this commentary in the past. Very nice commentary with those 4. Very informative, of course. Very entertaining commentary with those 4. On disc 2, which is a DVD, we get the Many Days of the Dead, which is from the old Anchor Bay release of the film. It's 40 minutes and 14 seconds in length. It includes interviews with George Romero, Tom Savini, Cletus Anderson, Greg Nicotero, David Ball, Chris Romero, Laurie Cardille, Joe Pilato, and Howard Sherman. They discuss shooting down in the mine, the characters, the zombie extras, Bub, the makeup effects, the long hours, the film's release, the fans of the film, and much more. Very nice, less informative, less in-depth making of for Day of the Dead than on disc 1, but still A very nice making of for Day of the Dead. Next up, we get Joe of the Dead from the Arrow video release. It's 50 minutes and 53 seconds in length. It's an interview with Joe Pilato in which he discusses his background in theater, getting cast by Romero in Dawn of the Dead and Night Riders before being cast as Rhodes in Day of the Dead. He discusses the character of Rhodes, the politics of the time finding their way into the film, working with George Romero and what kind of director he was. He discusses working with Tom Savini, and he discusses his death scene in the film, in which he improvised the line "choke on him," and how the pig guts that were used as his guts in the film, they were left in a refrigerator that was accidentally unplugged, and it was unplugged for 2 weeks. So when they got back around to getting those pig guts out of the refrigerator after 2 weeks of that refrigerator not being plugged in, they were a little ripe. Just a little bit. Mr. Pilato also discusses, and I thought this was very, very fascinating, that he was initially attached to play the role George Clooney played in From Dusk Till Dawn. And there's actually a promo trailer on YouTube that you can watch with Joe Pilato in that role. It's really interesting. And for me personally, screw Clooney. I would have loved to have seen Joe Pilato in From Dusk Till Dawn. He also talks about the Day of the Dead remake, and Ving Rhames, who portrayed Pilato's character in the remake, and much more. Very nice interview with Joe Pilato. Joe Pilato is a character. He's very entertaining to listen to. Great speaker. Just, yeah, very nice interview with Mr. Pilato. Next up, we get Reflections on the Living Dead. It's 1 hour, 18 minutes, and 38 seconds in length. It features a roundtable discussion with George Romero, John Russo, Russell Streiner, and Carl Hardman, in which they discuss the making of Night of the Living Dead, as well as interviews with famous fans of Night of the Living Dead, which include Tobe Hooper, John Landis, Fred Olen Ray, Sam Raimi, Wes Craven, and Scott Spiegel. And we get Carl Hardman and Marilyn Eastman discussing the makeup effects in the film and the music and sound in Night of the Living Dead. This is a fascinating discussion with all involved covering everything you could possibly want to know about the making of Night of the Living Dead. Now, I think this was filmed in either the late 80s or the early 90s. I may be mistaken, but again, just fascinating. Fascinating stuff here. Next up, we get Travelogue of the Dead. It's 17 minutes and 44 seconds in length, in which Joe Pilato travels through Ireland and Scotland as he promotes the 25th anniversary of Day of the Dead at various screenings. Again, Joe Pilato, he's a total character, great speaker, loves the fans, and again, very entertaining. A little extra here. Well, not a little extra. It's 17 minutes and 44 seconds, but very nice extra here featuring Joe Pilato. And we get an image gallery. Now, the picture quality for all of these extras on disc 2, they are a little compressed looking. This is a DVD after all, so it's only going to be standard def, and particularly the making of the many Days of the Dead, it looked very, very compressed. This release from Umbrella Entertainment definitely lives up to the title of the Ultimate Edition. It is loaded with extras that span Arrow releases of Day of the Dead, Anchor Bay releases of Day of the Dead, and the Scream Factory release of Day of the Dead. Tons of extras on here. The picture quality isn't bad. The sound quality is pretty good. It's marked as a Region B release, but take my word for it, it'll play on Region A players as well. I'm assuming that it's all region, but it will definitely play on Region A players as well. So yeah, if you're a fan of Day of the Dead, by all means, look into picking up this release from Umbrella Entertainment. It's just a great way to get all of the extras for Day of the Dead onto one single release. I'll post a link to Umbrella Entertainment's website down in the description. Go over and check them out. Let me know your thoughts on Day of the Dead down in the comment section below. Let me know where it ranks, in your opinion, among Romero's Dead films down in the comments section below. If you like this video, please leave it a thumbs up. If you're not following me on social media, those links are in the description. They're also right around here. As always, thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Take care, and until next time, peace. Join the $1 a Month Club and help support my channel on Patreon. Thank you to my current patrons, Kevin Smythe, Orc145626, B-Movie Mike, Robert Sobel, Turi Delamore, Stephen Flanagan, Lori Holt, Mitch Odell, Farron Sutton, Craig Farrand, Jeremiah Lambert, Grindhouse Grotto, Joseph Charlesworth, Chris Earls, Derek Jana, Demon Waffles, Tim Williams, Stone Gassman, Zachary Barton, Mr. Bibby 86, James Welch, Eli Geisler, Jeff Overing, Cliff Hostetter, Kyle McGuire, Jay the Stingray, Lauren Dixon, Travis Davis, Dave Barnes, Jonathan Lundy, and Chris Parsons. Say hello to the internet, Jeremy.
Hello to the internet.